This time, I'd like to call a special call meeting of the Anderson County Charter Commission to order, and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Fritz.
Here.
Commissioner Smallridge.
Here.
Commissioner Henry. Commissioner Isbell.
Here.
Commissioner White. Commissioner Meany.
Here.
Commissioner Bochamp. Here. Chairman Sunshine.
Present.
Here and three.
Correction, we have 6. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. At this time, would you please stand for the prayer led by Commissioner Fritz, followed by the pledge led by Commissioner Meade.
Our chairman don't know this, and many don't know I'm going to say this, but his brother is pretty ill at this time, and I'd like to ask that we take a moment and have a moment of silence for his brother, and that we remember him in our prayers and thoughts, and then not only him, but his entire family. Not only is he, his brother, one of my constituents, but I worked with him for a few years, and I've known him and his family for a long, long time. And I'd like for us to remember Charles in our thoughts and prayers at this time. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you, Lord, for this day and everything that you have done for us. We thank you for this season and for your Son and the sacrifices he has made for us and everything he's given us. We thank you for this commission and people who serves on it. And we now ask, Lord, that you give us the insight and the wisdom that everything we do will be to uplift and glorify you, and it'll be for the betterment of this county. Forgive us when we fail you in so many ways. For it's in Jesus' name I pray. And amen.
Please join me in the pledge to our flag and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you all. This time, I'm hoping everyone has read the minutes of the previous meeting. Do I hear any objections or corrections?
Move we approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Like sign? Motion carries. At this time, this is for the appearance of citizens. Do we have anyone that would like to address the commission at this time? Yes, please state your name and address.
My name's Harold Edwards. I live at 156 Henderson Bend Road. The purpose for my visit here this evening, first of all, thank you for your service in formulating a charter form of government for Anderson County. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I am of the opinion or understanding that you're going to be discussing party affiliation for candidates in Anderson County. Is that correct?
I don't think it's tonight.
Is it tonight?
No.
Okay.
It'd be a possible, well, it all depends on it. We have private acts to go through.
Okay.
What you ask about we discussed at the last meeting, but it did not pass.
Okay. What did not pass?
The motion was made that all elections locally be nonpartisan,
Okay,
and it did not pass.
okay, and I'm in
Am I-
favor of partisan elections. That's basically what I wanted to speak on.
Now, I didn't misrepresent anything there, did I? If I did,
Okay,
Speak
so
out.
it is party-affiliated elections. Is that what will
as
be
of now,
incorporated in the chart?
it
Okay.
is.
Okay,
One of them was put on that we didn't decide totally on it, and that was on for constables and commissioners only to be nonpartisan.
okay.
Well, I think that right now it's in the charter to be nonpartisan, is it not?
It's not an approved portion, right?
It's not in the approved portion, but it's in there to be nonpartisan. Because that's the way it was.
It was to be discussed and voted
right.
on, yes.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'm aware of a state attorney general opinion that should be coming out that discusses that, about nonpartisan or partisan. So I think that the law director should have it pretty soon. I just got it earlier.
okay,
So we could probably have that for our next meeting.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to voice my support for partisan candidates. And I know the Communist Party is a recognized party, and I think everybody would want to know if their candidate was a member of the Communist Party. That's important. I think voters need the transparency and need to know which party affiliation they're voting for. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you too, and thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Yeager, you're up.
Does everybody have a copy of the private acts? Got a couple extra. Harold, Lindsay, one copy. Give it to the existing. You got it? Pretty archaic. Well, some of them are duplication.
I need something to help me go to sleep.
That's perfect, Harold, right there. I'm gonna try to go as fast as I can. I want to make a couple of comments here before we get started, so I don't forget them. I know I told you that the deadline for submission of the charter to the Election Commission was May 22nd. That's for the August general election. The deadline for the November general election would be August 20th. I've got a copy of this email I got from Mr. Stevens with the Election Commission, but when I looked at it closely, it looks like he's got the dates wrong. And I just want to make you aware of it because it is very important to us. My understanding is the election, August election is August 4th instead of August 6th. So we pushed that date back to May 20th. That's the last day for submission of the charter to the Election Commission. And the November election is the 8th instead of the 3rd. So we pushed that date up 5 days to August 25th. So those are your two deadlines. If you want to go with the August general election, you're looking at May 20. You want to go with the November 8th election, it's August 25th is the deadline. So there we have it. Just make sure we're on that page. Okay, these are mandatory provisions And I'll talk to Gavin, and he's gonna go back through and make sure that he's got these all covered, but they have to be in the charter. There's no way around it. So we'll make sure that's covered with Gavin. He's got those all included in the draft. Now, I've got a couple things that's not included right now that we discussed back on October 5th, 2020. You want to continue with the civil service system for the sheriff's office. That's worked pretty well. It requires just cause instead of at-will to terminate, which realistically, any termination of a county government employee becomes just cause unless they're on probation. But if you want it included, the civil service system, we've had it since '74. We need to lay that out within the sheriff's duties somewhere. We've covered open meetings and open records. The other one is the enterprise zones. That's not in there. I feel like that's extremely important to some areas of our county that are economically depressed, and it gives them a lot of incentives, a lot of opportunities to help those areas. They have to have a minimum population of 1,000, and it has to be designated in the national map and that coincides with the block and maps that we have here in Tennessee. We have 2 areas in Anderson County already designated as low-income communities. They're both in the Rocky Top area. What the enterprise zones allow you to do is only for municipalities or metropolitan forms of government or charter forms of government. It allows you to waive a lot of the restrictions as far as building, codes enforcement, those things. It gives priority to CDBG grants, which is very important.
We
Anyway,
passed that.
Excuse me?
We passed that.
You passed it, it's not in there right now. I want to make sure that is something you want to see. Now, along with that is the opportunity zones. And the opportunity zones is a federal statute, but the mechanism with the state to make the opportunity zones work is the enterprise zones. So I'm going to have Gavin include this unless somebody has an issue with it. But what you're doing is you're in these designated areas, you're waiving a lot of government regulations, and they will get priority over other communities for CDB grants. There's a lot of incentives for the businesses to come there, especially the ones that will employ over 20% of the population in that block, population block. So anyway, that's what it's about. I handed out before this material from CTAS. If anybody wants to see it again, I'll shoot you a copy via email, but it's a long set of statutes with an overview from CTAS on it. So I hear it from you guys, that is to be included.
Yes, we had someone to appear before us, and we passed it that night. And also, I believe we talked about civil service.
We talked about it, but I don't have
but
an affirmative motion on that.
But it came up that, to keep it, that we weren't gonna change it. It was one of the things we weren't gonna change, so
Okay.
we didn't need to vote on it.
That's correct.
Is
Well,
that
it'll
not-
be,
Is that not right?
That was what I remember.
Yeah, well,
I
it
understand that.
doesn't hurt to say, like right now, I'll make a motion that these first 2 items are recommended for approval. The one for the sheriff's department maintaining their system of hiring, and also for the enterprise zones. Because we do want those included.
Yes.
Right.
If we have a motion. Now, if we talked about it before and agreed with it, that's fine.
It was talked about
we
very
still have-
favorable, but I don't have a affirmative motion put it in there, but I will. And you don't, it's like I said before, we can continue by voting on these individual, or in the end, you're gonna have two shots at voting on the entire charter.
Yeah.
And I'm sure one of them will need to maybe work on some areas a little bit more. But anyway, I'll have Gavin put these in the charter as it stands right now.
Anyone want to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I just made a motion
I'll
Okay.
to
second.
approve these first two items.
Commissioner Isabel, second. Any other discussion?
And my understanding right too, these enterprise zones, it don't only apply just to one area of this county, it applies to all areas of the county where it could apply to District 1 and,
If your census block area has the required amount of people below the poverty level, or is really the main thing, is a census block of a minimum of 1,000 people is below the poverty level. Which is not hard these days.
No.
And you know how many census blocks we've got. Okay, that's, anything else on those now as it stands?
We got to vote. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Fritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Smallridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Isbell,
Aye.
Commissioner Meade,
Aye.
Commissioner Bochamp. Chairman Stonehouse.
Aye.
6.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman. I was thinking that, when we went through this before and we agreed, that for that to be in there, so now, do we need to go back and make a motion on everything that we've already agreed on? or-
No, as I've said all along, you're gonna get what matters is that final
The final vote, okay.
And we've been putting things in there, as you know, we had to do that, and letting you review and kind of cull and vet the provisions of what you want to keep and what you want to toss. That's been working well, but there seems to be some confusion with some people that there's not motions passed on every particular item. And as I've explained to the people that have concerns about that, really the only vote that matters is when you approve
I thought that,
entire-
yeah, no, I agree with
entire
that.
charter.
Yeah.
And that's been my stance all along, but
Well,
some
it's-
people don't quite
Just
understand that.
as a point of clarification, if it was something new, we voted on it. If it was something that was already in there and we didn't want to change, we just said, leave it there, we're not making changes.
and that's what that's what was voted on.
Yes.
And that's where I'm saying, when we voted on that, that's where the election of the, keeping the election of commissioners and constables nonpartisan was supposed to be kept in there as is. And even though there's supposedly some Attorney General thing coming out, us voting county commissioners and constables as nonpartisan for over 100+ years has not been illegal for over 100+ years. And there's no law out there right now saying that, there's 0 laws out there right now saying that county commissioners and constables has to be elected as partisan.
Well, let's wait until the AG's opinion comes out. We'll have some guidance, and that's my position on it.
Yep.
There's no need to even discuss that issue. We've got some controlling law, or AG's
Right.
opinions are not controlling law, but they're persuasive to some degree.
I'm
But
saying
that'll
that-
help us understand it. But there is an AG opinion. In fact, there's 2, as I mentioned back in October, when you did the private act, that supports nonpartisan elections. There's one that would question Shelby County having their DA as nonpartisan, and it was upheld by private act. But anyway, I want to see the AG opinion, and that's the most recent guidance we could possibly have. So we don't have that yet, and let's wait till we get it, because the discussion is really moved until we get the legal guidance on it.
Because I understand that even that though, we can't say that what we've been doing for the past 100+ years has been illegal.
I understand. the one thing I wanted to add there, on the civil service system, I asked you if you wanted to have a merit board or civil service for the rest of the employees. We don't have that now, and the answer was no. Okay, that makes all the other employees in the county at will. But as it works around here, there's always, most of the terminations that I've been asked to review, there's been just cause, and except for maybe some probation issues. But anyway, that's the way that stands in case you get a question on it. I think that takes care of all the stuff on that list. Okay, you ready to go through the private acts? Try to go fast.
Which we got, I divided this into two about the one that had the private acts and then which one was canceled and or moot. What are you gonna be referring
Well, there's
to?
one of them is what I have in my office. It's a copy of what we've kept in our office. The other one is what CTAS has. The top one you've got is what CTAS has.
Right.
And they review all the legislation every year and see if there's any private acts or local application laws and report them on their website so anybody can see them. So that's what we've got first. But we want to get rid of some of these ones that are in conflict with the way we're doing things, and certainly the archaic ones. The first one you come to is the county law director. Do you want to remove that one, or do you want to keep that one? It's currently in, and you voted on this, and it's currently in. Any problems there?
No, keep that.
Okay. All right, let's move to the county clerk. This is a 1947. You'll see 1947 come up a lot. We just dealt with the veterans one, and at last commission meeting we had to repeal it. The fireworks has been in discussion for a couple of years now. It came out of 47. But this county clerk, I believe, is antiquated. It's a general law of local application by population brackets, and it says that the Quarterly County Court is hereby authorized to set the compensation for each clerk employed under the authority of this act for an amount not exceeding $1,200 a year.
Yeah.
I think that needs to go personally.
They get paid more than that?
Yeah, a little bit.
So
Any
we're,
problems with,
so we're in violation of our private act.
well, you'll see that many times over. Private Acts of 1953, Chapter 358. That allows, and I know we've got a newer one, but that allows Jeff Cole or the county clerk to have an office in Oak Ridge. Everybody okay with keeping that?
Keep that.
Mhm.
Okay, County Register of Deeds, Private Act of 2010. We actually did this one, and what this did is there was a charter provision in Oak Ridge that required all deeds coming out of the city to be submitted to the property assessor's office. Well, that's not how it works here, and that's going to cause some problems. They need to be submitted to the Register of Deeds. The Register of Deeds records it. Then he sends them to the property assessor. They check all the maps and confirm the property lines and the owners, and then it goes to the trustee's office for the tax collection. So that one needs to be kept. I've talked to Tim Shelton about that, and he's definitely wants that. County Service Officer, that's the Veterans Service Officer. The County Commission voted to repeal that private act this past Monday. So that one's no. The dumping fees is a 1980 Private Act, Chapter 247. The county legislative body may establish a fee for the privilege of dumping trash, refuse, debris, or garbage in Anderson County. Such fee shall be an amount determined by the county legislative body of Anderson County and shall be enforced and collected by such department or agency of Anderson County as may be designated by the county legislative body. Such fees shall not be applicable to dump sites used on an irregular or infrequent basis or ones on privately owned property used by the owner of that property to dispose of his own waste. That, I think, was put in place to fund our convenience center system. But we've not, to my knowledge, we've never charged that. Now, we have a tipping fee and a fee down at the landfill, the waste management landfill that operates there for us, but that is the county landfill, and before that it was at Blockhouse Valley. So right now, I don't know if you want to allow this one to stay on the books or not, but it authorizes the legislative body to establish a fee for dumping trash and refuse. Thoughts?
Under state law, counties can't do that.
No,
It actually
not a
requires-
charge a fee. Now, they can, the tipping fee and the use of the landfill, but this, the way it's written, would appear to say that we can charge for use of the convenience centers. We've never done that, to my knowledge, not since I've been here.
What is the rule on somebody that doesn't live in the county? They're not allowed
They're
to.
not supposed to. The attendants are asked to look at the tags when they come through, but I don't know what kind of job they do at that. I see people from out of county at the convenience center fairly often.
Yeah. I know in Oak Ridge, all of a sudden, they're really doubling down on checking your
Yeah,
residence.
we heard about
They
that.
want to see your ID when you go.
Yeah.
Right, and everything's got to be in bags and all that. So, but anyway, your thoughts on the dumping fee? Do you want to allow it to stand? I don't think it's in use, but
I
it
know
may be
they're
okay to have the
considering
authority.
changing maybe the way they do the convenience centers. And maybe instead of Waste Connections doing it, the county may go in there doing it themselves.
That's been a thought. I believe we're doing
So that
some
wouldn't
research
affect
on
this
that.
at all, would it?
No, in fact, it could possibly help that in the
Yeah.
future. If we do decide to man our own convenience centers, there's going to be a lot of costs for the dumpsters, and I don't know if they're going to contract with Waste Connections to pull those loads out, or
Well,
the
they
extent
talked that
of-
they'd be doing it themselves.
Yeah, I understand they're talking about it, but that means we're having to have trucks, employees, we have to buy the dumpsters, compactors. There's a grant right now that's available for the dumpsters. It's been available for several years, but
But that wouldn't affect, what I'm saying, no, this right here wouldn't affect that, if they decide to go that route.
no, it wouldn't affect it adversely. It may be something that comes in handy in the future.
So it wouldn't hurt this, then just leave that then.
That,
It doesn't make us do anything,
mm-mm.
and it allows us to do something that wouldn't be authorized otherwise, which is in the realm of possibility.
Yeah,
I think we just need to, this one just needs to stay.
move on.
Okay, the Private Acts of 1951 actually established a purchasing policy. We then enacted the 57 Purchasing Act and Financial Management System. So this is archaic. After that, back in
We're now in
2016,
81.
we're in the 81 Act. So this one needs to go. It establishes an office that is in conflict with the way we do it. The salary is set for the purchasing agent here at $2,400 a year, and that's not going to work. So in my opinion, this one needs to go.
Move, yeah.
Here's additional satellite offices, and I drafted this one too. That's the newer one we talked about. This allows the county clerk and the trustee to have the Norris and the Oak Ridge offices. This is definitely needed.
What does that make the other one moot?
I don't think Jeff wants to get rid of it, but I'll ask him on it. That one was just allowed the Oak Ridge, but not the Norris office.
Okay.
And this one here would take care of the Oak Ridge one.
Yes. It basically does the same thing, only the second one that we just read is broader and establishes that office in Norris. Do you want to get rid of the 53 one and just go with the one established in 2015?
I would think that'd be the thing to do.
You don't need to be redundant.
Okay, the solicitation fee we've got, and we still use this on occasion. You can get a soliciting permit from the zoning office. I think we need to keep it. It's not necessarily the revenue we get off of it, but it gives us a chance to know who we've authorized to be door-to-door solicitors, have their names on file in case something does happen. I would say keep this. Okay, there's a series of ones on, now you see, the next one is the county attorney, the historical notes on it. You can see the development of the county attorney. There's been 7 different private acts on that, but right now we're going with number 7. The rest of them had provisions that repealed or superseded the previous one. And so none of those need to be taken off the list. They're already been repealed by supersession. The county legislative body, as you see, this is some very old ones, 1809, 1819, 1824. They're all out of date. Compensation would be $1.50 a day. Then in 1921, it went to $3 a day. One thing consistent, you're not going to be rich becoming a county commissioner here. 59 was $25 a day, but they all need to go, in my opinion, unless somebody wants to keep them.
Now, Jay, I followed you down the line here, and we got the solicitation fee, and the next one had to do with,
I'm at the bottom of page 10 is administration historical notes. It says county attorney. I just went over those. That goes to the top of page 11. Now, on the middle of page 11, you've got county legislative body. It's printed in front and back. Some of them are. So just be careful of that.
So we're keeping the historical notes.
Oh, yes. That's trying to tell you how it evolved.
But getting rid of the county legislative body section.
Right, because it's established a state statute, and most of them are compensation type statutes and or private acts, and they're just totally antiquated.
okay.
Should that be the same for the county mayor?
There's that, number 7 has something a little different in it. It's 1955 Private Act, Chapter 416, gave the Quarterly County Court the authority to regulate by ordinance in areas outside of cities, having zoning powers, the location, height, and size of building, lot occupancy, use, size of yards, courts, and other open spaces in other areas related to land use and planning. There's Title 13 of the state statutes that give us all the authority we need on local planning, zoning, authority to adopt building code and property maintenance codes. So I would say every one of those need to go 1 through 7.
Okay.
As you can see, there's an evolution of state statutes. The counties thought they didn't have the power, and they probably didn't back then, but the state statutes were enacted, and that took care of these. Now, county mayor, same thing. The county mayor's duties and powers are all by state statute. I would question whether or not any of these would override a state statute, and I don't think any of them would. But as you see, there was some evolution. It was the county judge at one time and all that. So anyway, I don't think any of these are needed. I don't think our mayor wants to preside over juries of inquest over bodies of deceased persons and things of that nature. Our medical examiner does a very good job there. Okay, county register, the following acts once affected the county register. All of these need to go also. The $100 a month for the register of deeds, I don't think that would make Mr. Shelton happy. Let's see. Requires the conveyance of land to be presented to the county and city tax assessors. We do that by state statute. $6 fee. Our recording fee is higher than that, not much. The last one is gives the legal authority for the county register to refuse to record any writing eligible for registration if the writing in the discretion of the county register is not legible, suitable for reproduction, if the illegible writing is accompanied by an affidavit stating this is the best copy available or original, the county register shall accept such writing for recordation. The general rule for county registers is to not say legal grace over anything, not make a legal decision on anything. If you take something to the window, they record it. That's the general thought there. They're not going to go over it and say this is a legal instrument or an illegal instrument. But I probably need to speak with Mr. Shelton about that one, but I know if it's presented to his counter, for the most part, he's going to record that anyway. And this actually makes it eligible for recording anyway, as long as it's accompanied by an affidavit. So up until that number 4, I would recommend dropping those, and I'll talk with Mr. Shelton about that one. But
The note from the very beginning says the following acts once affected the office of the county register in Anderson County, but are no longer operative.
well, that means they've been superseded by state law or another private act or general law local application, but I'm not sure there is anything specifically on point on this. I know the general rule, what they tell them is that, but for the most part, I think those all need to go. The county trustee, these would not be operative at all because this is all changed by Tennessee state statute. They all need to go. General reference, these have either been, they're not operative, there's been superseded, repealed, or failed to receive local approval. So I don't think we even need to go through any of those. They're general reference statutes. Some of them are extremely old. 1801, the inspection of certain commodities, 1819, 1826, 1827. So you can see they're extremely old. Even the latest one, 1963, we have the power to zone junkyards already in Title 13. So moving to the bottom of the page of 14, animals and fish. That, to my knowledge, is still on the book. We defer to TWRA on all wildlife issues and fishing licenses. We do issue a local fishing license for Anderson County only, but I don't believe it's this private act that authorizes that. This is talking about gigging fish and hunting foxes. So I would recommend this one be taken out. You follow me? Bottom of 14, top of 15. Evidently red foxes were an issue at some time. The next one, 1953, chapter 549, it's talking about the season for red foxes, and evidently this was a population bracket because it talks about Benton County. Again, TWRA has the ability to enforce all wildlife laws and fishing laws, so that needs to go. And then all these that are at the bottom of page 15 are no longer in effect. That's some more fishing and hunting. Again, they were probably all enacted prior to the majority of the TWRA regulations. so I would scratch that. The bond issue one, we operate off state law there for bond issues, as well as the TIF and the PILT agreements, so these were individual bonds, as you see, the Massengale Ferry, Clinton Andersonville Road, which is now 61, for 50,000 of bonds for construction. I don't think any of these are needed. They just authorize the ability for the county to take out bonds, and now the general law allows that. Everybody follow me? Bottom of page 16. The courthouse.
Right where it says chapter 3 bond issues, it says there are no private acts currently in effect on this topic. So that,
There is, that's chapter 3. Then you go down below it, bond issues historical notes, and I went through and I said, I don't think any of these would apply because these are specific bond instruments that were passed, and the Tennessee state law allows us to do that anyway. So they don't need, there's no need to have a private act for a bond instrument that the county may take out. Same thing with courthouse one that authorized to sell up to $25,000 in bonds for the courthouse. These are all debt related. None of them will be applicable at this time. As you see, they all have some kind of project, pretty much, that they were wanting to use it on, roads, bridges, ferries. And again, it's authorizing the county to take out a bond, which at some time had to be done by a private act. Now, state law has a general provision allowing that. So I'm going through all these. We're down to the schools on page 19, and this again is bonds for the schools, and these have all been taken care of, so they would not even apply at this point. They're so old. Creation of the county boundaries, this has to be kept. It's the original private act, Foreman, Anderson County in 1801, and it sets forth the county boundaries. It has to be kept.
Okay.
There's a change in the private acts of 1806 that changed some of the boundaries, and also 1807, so they have to be kept. Also, 1817, that's another boundary that has to be kept. 1853, that's another boundary, it has to be kept. 1853 and 54, chapter 320, that's another boundary.
So all the boundaries have to be kept.
Yes. I'm at the top of page 24.
Well, let me ask you something.
Yes.
Bottom of page 23. Compiler's notes, section 1 through 5 and section 9 do not concern Anderson County and are therefore not, oh, they're not printed here, okay. I got
You understand?
you, yep.
I would not change any or drop any of these boundaries. The 1903 one changed the line with Morgan County. And I'm not really sure where Fodderstock Mountain is. Tim, do you know where that is?
I don't.
I thought you knew about every foot up there in the mountains.
You know, it's funny how that was laid out as by rod,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we still have deeds by rods.
and it's very accurate.
Is it?
Yeah, very accurate.
You know, Coal Creek has got a guy that they've been working for over 20 years, and all he does is survey their property. Boy, wouldn't you hate to survey this, the old wagon road on Fodderstock Mountain. 388 poles, that's Stallion Mountain, I don't even know where that is, but we need to keep. Here's the ones that they believe are a summary of transfers. Excuse me, yeah, let me pull this up, I gotta have it. Yes, thank you so much. Okay, very hesitant to scrap these.
Excuse me, where are you, Jay?
I'm on page 25, boundaries, historical notes. They're very general descriptions of the land transfer, but they are land transfers that helped form Anderson County's boundaries. I don't want to mess with anything regarding the boundaries. I won't go over that closely, but my recommendation is to keep all these
Yep.
at the current time. Okay, the court system, this 1947 established your General Sessions Court. That needs to be kept. Then you can see the evolution of the General Sessions Court until it goes into General Sessions 2. And I believe the desire is to keep General Sessions 2. Then we've got Juvenile Court. That needs to be kept also. And there's an evolution of that up until 1988. Back in 2006 or 2007, we changed the salary of the juvenile court judge. I don't see that actually in here. But all those need to be kept, but the current ones,
This one on page 30 says that it was amended by private acts in 1981 and 2006.
yeah, that's what they're doing is, oh, you see that one in 06? Good, good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. Okay. They all form our juvenile court system, and I'm hesitant to drop any of those. They're all working off the original private act. They're just adding sections to it. So we would have to go back and scrap it from the beginning and recreate it. So I would say keep it. Court system, I'm on page 31. Historical notes, the Board of Jury Commissioners. To my knowledge, we haven't had that in years. Does anybody remember that? This is all done by state statute. Now, the next one is Chancery Court, but every one of them been superseded by state statute. That's a case where we wanted a Chancery Court to hear equitable claims, and it's allowable by state law now, so that one would need to go. They're all in conflict with the current statutory scheme. And these are extremely old, all the 1800s and early 1900s. This last one of 67, bonds for the circuit court clerk. Yeah, I believe every one of them, yeah, they've been either repealed or superseded by state law. The clerk and master, same thing, that's done by state law now. You've had two private acts that set up the clerk and master to service the Chancery Court. Those would need to go.
Are we taking out the Board of Jury Commissioners?
Yeah, that's all done by the circuit court clerk. That's part of his duties or her
I don't
duties.
want to mess with anything in case he needs something in there.
Let me ask the circuit court clerk to look at that,
And we're
but,
gonna take out Chancery Court.
yeah, I think so. It's all by state law. In fact, the head note there says they've been superseded or repealed. I'll ask him about that. Okay, I'm on the top of page 34, and these are all either been repealed or superseded or were not ratified by the county legislative body. That's a historical reference. They were all go. In fact, they're by operational law, they're gone. This is I'm at the top of page 35, the circuit court clerk. Same thing, they were either repealed or superseded. that'd be rough on a $1,500 a year annual compensation. So the criminal court, again, they're no longer needed because they're established by state law. And in effect, by operational law, they've been superseded because a private act is not the equivalent of state law. Now, I'm at page 36, and it starts at the top, District Attorney General, Assistants and Criminal Investigators. These are all created now by state law. I don't think any of them would be needed by our current DA. The most recent one of 76 created an office of the Assistant District Attorney General. So we've got all this. I don't think any of those are needed. Again, here's a outlier on General Sessions Court. This is no longer needed at all. There's plenty of state statutes for them in the General Sessions, and you can have concurrent jurisdiction with Juvenile Court as it stands right now, but our county is large enough to where we have a separate Juvenile Court and General Sessions. Okay, education. This 2002 one was one that I put together, and that is currently in effect. The main point of that one is it brought them down from what BL 9 to 8, and that sets forth that they school board districts shall mirror the county commission districts, and I would say they all need to stay. That is currently what we're all operating off of as it stands for the composition of the school board. Teachers, private acts in 1941. I don't know why this one is in here, other than it may be just a little bit different because certification is required by the state. VL, I need you and Dr. Smallridge to look at this closely, but I don't see, there is a 3-year probation, and that's not the current regulation. I'm at the bottom of page 37. I'm really hesitant to take anything.
Well, tenure is tenure, and it's,
Yeah, that's a state statute now.
yeah, but there's also probably definitions, or a definition of tenure that keeps going. But this is the local tenure law that I was asking about, if it was still in existence, and I'd say it is.
Okay. It also has an interesting provision for a writ of
Well,
certiorari.
it includes more than
I see that.
the thing. The definition of teacher here includes almost all employees.
Mm-hmm. Not just as we break it out with the classified.
Yes, it
Okay.
includes those too.
Okay, I think we need to keep that. We'll, if you and Dr. Smallridge get a chance to kind of look through that, make sure that's what we want to do. The next one is Board of Education, private acts that are no longer operative or been superseded. I'm at the top of page 39. All these need to go. Same thing, this is private acts appointing old school board members and school superintendents, so they're no longer needed at all that I see.
In that whole Board of Education page,
Yeah.
39 at the very top, it says that they're,
Right,
the
superseded.
ones listed below are no longer operative.
The interesting one is 1909, compulsory attendance. There's a state statute on that. 8 to 14 here. And boy, what a school year, 16 weeks each year. I say the kids would be for that right now. That's probably pretty good. So all these need to go. That last one, the most recent one, authorizes a $25 per month for each teacher and principal for a period of 10 months a year. That's their increase that year. School districts, I need some help with this with my two experts here. Special school districts have been all abolished. That's correct, isn't it? I believe there's a statute on point. They no longer exist. And this one, 1903, formed an independent school districts with Roane and Anderson County. None of those are needed at each point, at this point. Same thing, I'm at top of page 42, an independent school district in Oliver Springs. That's still a little bit of a mess there, but we've got schools down there, Norwood Elementary, Norwood Middle, and the high school is over in Roane County. But none of these appear to be operative at this time or needed. Okay, elections, there's no private acts on elections that are now in effect. You see below the historical notes, basically these are reapportionment type notes, but interesting last names here. Some families that have been in this county since its existence. But I would say none of them, in fact, CTAS is of the opinion they've been repealed by prior law or existing law. This number 7 concerns me a bit. That's where we created our civil districts, and but now the number 8, it went to, let me try to follow, 6 to 8 with number 7. I'm at the top of page 43. And then the next one, 1965, went from 8 to 2. We no longer operate like that, but I don't know what the authority is, but those are the old civil districts, and they are not current in this county. Okay, these are old election laws that are here for historical purposes only. They've been repealed by new law, and you can see that it's talking about electoral districts, reapportionment. The sheriff is really interesting looking at these, and I don't want to waste your time, but the sheriff or his deputy is to open and hold a separate election at the house of Jacob Weaver, who lived in the Big Valley. Pretty neat. And then the sheriff, evidently the sheriff was really needed back in the election days. They had a deputy or the sheriff at each precinct, but they're no longer needed. And then congressional districts we don't use that system anymore. And I don't see anything. Tennessee with one senatorial district for Knox, Anderson, Campbell, and Morgan. But CTAS evidently has looked at these and say they've been repealed with newer substantive provisions, and I'm going to take their word on it. Okay, I'm at the top of page 45. Same type thing. These are all reapportionment of congressional districts, and that is not even in the county's purview anymore. 47 recited in its preamble that Anderson County had become the site of the atomic developments which had brought about increases in population and extended the hours of election. I think our hours are much longer than that. Yeah, these are all just there for historical reference. Okay, I'm at the top of page 46, health. They're no longer operative. There was only two. As you know, our system is, even though we have a local health department, that's funded primarily by the state. Now, we pitch in a good bit. We operate the dental clinic and we provide employees up there, so it's a joint effort, but it's under the state health department system. So these are not needed. The other one, private acts of 47, wow, they were really busy that year. Abolished the office of county physician in Anderson County and authorized the sheriff to call upon any physician in the county to attend the medical needs of the prisoners. We've got a state statute that says that it is the absolute duty of the county commission to fund medical assistance at the county jail. So that's changed. We're down to middle of page 46, chapter 9, highways and roads. These were, every one of these at some point were in effect, but now we're under the Uniform Highway Law. And we opted into that law many years ago, way before my time here. And I believe that I'm slightly worried about the one of 1993 because it does reference the Uniform Highway Law. And it puts in some qualifications for the job. But state statute, I say we keep that 1993. I don't quite know what is the difference. A lot of counties call this job a little bit different. Either the highway superintendent, the road superintendent, or the chief administrative officer comes from the Uniform Highway Law. But it does reference Title 54 of the Uniform Highway Law, and so I felt like they probably needed this for one reason or the other, so I'd recommend keeping that. Okay, highways and roads, these are all historical notes, and that's how our road system was built. As you see, one of the first ones up here ran up from where I live all the way up to north of Anderson County, and I'm not quite sure what road they were trying to create there, but I'd say it was along Hillvale to Lovely Bluff or something along those lines up to the Campbell County line. But these are not needed at all. They've been repealed, and but it's interesting historically that that's how our road system was created and how we acquired the land. Most, back in the old days, we used to go out and have people deed the roads to us. Now it's done by dedication, and they're actually deeding a right-of-way in this dedication. But it's a little bit different on how it actually occurs. But back in the old days, we had to go out and acquire by some means the real estate to build a road. These all have been deemed not necessary by CTAS. The 33 one there says it creates the position of road superintendent, but we've got more contemporaneous, a private act and certainly state law that creates that position. Next several of them are salaries. How much? And they're certainly not needed. The highway superintendent is under the state law. Jails and prisons, again, a 47 private act. This is done by state statute, requires us to provide all furnishings, bedding, mattresses, tables, and chairs, utensils, and all other equipment ordinarily used in maintenance of the county jail shall be furnished by the counties. That then the sheriff should get 2 automobiles. I don't see that needed. Let me go on down here. Furnish uniforms. I don't think that's needed. I really don't, because all those are required by state law that I can see. And that brings us to the bottom of page 51, the Fireworks Private Act, and we've tried to repeal this on 2 different times here in the past 21 years, and it's failed as recently as last year. So that is still on the books. Unless this Charter Commission decides they want to take it out.
Okay, I've talked about this before, and we had a short discussion earlier this evening about this specific private act. It's never enforced. It has penalties that are, 30 days in jail is the minimum for if you're found guilty of it. But a firecracker or a sparkler, okay, and a minimum $50 fine, it's just not, it's not enforced. It's not going to be enforced.
And there is a set of statutes that control it at the state law level.
Oh yeah, there's pretty stringent.
So it's not like there's a void there, but this is a total prohibition in the county.
Yeah, this one I thought was out of hand, and it passed immediately with 2/3 when it was recommended. It was passed with not a single no vote in the state legislature, both the House and the Senate, signed by the governor, sent back here, and because of a single absent commissioner, it missed being passed by 1 vote. The commissioner I'm talking about, I'm not going to say any names, but the commissioner was absent when the vote was taken, and was in support of it, had been voiced as being in support for a long time. It was absent, and then it went down by 1 vote. Required 2/3, of course.
Right, that's correct.
What if we didn't include it in the?
It's gone. If you don't include it in the charter, it's gone.
What would be the?
It defaults back to the state law statutes, which are more permissive.
But the state still has a very rigid, like for sales and stuff like that, and you gotta go through a whole thing. It has to be inspected by a fire marshal. It's pretty, and then there's significant fees and all that stuff. It isn't like it just opens up everything. Nor is it, and it doesn't have any impact on the much more stringent laws requiring the display fireworks.
What's the pleasure of the group?
My recommendation is that it be deleted.
Got a motion?
And taken, I'll make a motion that the Private Act of 1947, Chapter 291, should not be maintained under a charter government.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I do recall the commission meeting, there was some pretty significant discussion about when fireworks would be allowed and concern about that. I don't know. About us just leaving it out.
The new one did that. The old one didn't allow any sales of any kind whatsoever, ever, in Anderson County. Even for displays that were authorized in Anderson County, it required that it be purchased outside the county. But the state laws are really rigid on this stuff. And the law has never been enforced since 1947. We can't find any record. In my discussion with the sheriff and previous sheriffs is that there's no intention to ever enforce that law. That is just really poor government to have things on the books that the intent from the very beginning is it will never be enforced. I just,
Commissioner Fritz?
When it came before commission, we had certain times when only fireworks could be sold and this, that, and the other. We had controls and everything. By eliminating this, that, we would not have these controls, we would not have these limits. And that's what my concern would be, is that we would need to establish some type of controls and limits and things of that nature.
Do you want me to bring back next meeting the actual state statutory scheme and show you what's in there? I don't know if that'd help you better decide, but you got a motion on the floor tonight.
That's what I'm wondering, if the state doesn't have some limits on timeframes that you can sell.
There is.
Coming from Morgan County, I know that
Yeah,
they
they-
have certain timeframes that they can only set up a stand, so I think they're bound by that state rule.
We actually, ours was almost identical to the state
Yeah.
statute that we had in the new
It was-
private act.
10 days that sales are allowed during two periods, one at the end of the year and one around the 4th of July.
And
Anyway.
on Oak Ridge, we can't have them anyway, so.
Right, the municipalities by their charters can
Yeah.
make them illegal.
Jay, if this is gone, this private act, do we have any, can we set any limits as a county commission on when and so on fireworks, or?
Well, you would default, if this is gone, okay, you default back to the state statutes. If there's something there that you don't like, or if there's something there that you want to expand upon, we'd have to create another private act. So that's why I'm saying, you know, if you want to get more information on it, I'll bring you the set of statutes that govern fireworks for the state, and see if that fills the void, because this will create a void. And also, you need to remember, we've got a noise ordinance in this county right now that does have a firework provision in it on excessive noises. But anyway, I'll be glad to help any way you guys desire on this. Seems like I've written at least 2 private acts on it in the past. It never passed, but whatever you want to do.
Any other discussion?
As one person, I would like more information on
I
that.
sure will, Bob.
But
Well, we're gonna table the motion?
Yeah, move to table the motion on
Okay.
this specific private act.
you need your second?
Second.
Okay.
Made second to table. We need to vote on that?
I think if the maker of the motion withdraws the motion that doesn't take it, you don't have to have the vote.
That's not necessarily a table, he's just withdrawing his motion.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, that one we'll study next time. Law enforcement, quite extensive, but most all these have been superseded. Talks about the Anderson County Militia, and the Anderson County Militia actually was involved in a war. And some of you may, I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. So, but none of them are needed at this time. Steve, did you know there was a Tennessee military code? I didn't know
Well,
that.
yeah, there's Tennessee military code now, and the Tennessee has a militia act. in it.
Yeah.
And the governor can call out the militia,
Okay, these, let's see.
and then if he wants to, assign them to the National Guard, in which case the president can then seize them.
That's all occurs not by the county, it's all state
It's all
government.
state, yeah.
Okay, so I guess these all need to go, and they've been repealed, or new substantive provisions, new provisions in Tennessee code are in place. Okay, these offenses, according to CTAS, they were either superseded, repealed, or failed to be ratified. They're listed here only for historical reference. And you can see they're very old. Wow.
Which one are you on?
I'm on top of page 53.
Okay.
Actually, that's, the number one's pretty funny. We asked for $49.62 to house 2 prisoners from the state. It's interesting what they had to have a private act for. Okay, Office of County Physician, we have seen this one before. These have all been superseded with current state law. Libraries, this one is needed, although a lot of it has been superseded, but it established our library system. And then 2008, Chuck probably remembers this, VL might have been, were you school superintendent or county commissioner in 08, VL? We did a resolution that brought all the libraries under Anderson County government, their employees, and provided them with a pay scale. They were woefully paid inadequate. It was embarrassing what our librarians were paid. And allowed them to have county benefits. So, but this one was the first one is the law library, and how it was created by a litigation tax. There is a budget there currently to provide legal books in that law library. And if people ask me all the time, is the law library in your office? No, it's not. It's in the Circuit Court Clerk's main office there on the 3rd floor. So I believe that's a budgeted item. I don't know if they charge that 25 cents currently, but I doubt it. I did some studies on litigation taxes. I don't ever recall seeing that one being applied, but I'm going to ask the Circuit Court Clerk if he still utilizes that. I don't think so. But that allows us to do that one. That wasn't the one creating our total library system. Let's go to litigation taxes. I don't want to touch these. You know, there's now a set maximum on the litigation taxes, unless they were created by private act prior to that set maximum. And here is one that gives us that $3 one. So that probably needs to stay. Then it was amended in '83. I would say that needs to stay, but I'll check with the Circuit Court Clerk.
Yeah, on the top of page 53, it actually lists as under offenses the act we already just talked about minutes ago, the one about the fireworks.
Mm-hmm. That was.
So we'll cover that with the.
Yeah, that's actually pretty up to date then.
Yeah.
Private Acts of 2021, but they don't have the one we tried to pass before. That was, I think, 08 or 09. Hotels and motels definitely needs to stay. That's where we get our occupancy tax, and that funds not only our tourism department, but a mandatory cut goes to the Chamber of Commerce. We've amended this in recent years, so that all needs to stay. The severance tax on pulpwood, I believe it needs to stay. We don't have a mechanism to capture this is the problem, and we find people all the time that are harvesting pulpwood and are unaware of this, and we're not able to capture it other than tell them to go down and pay it. But most of the time it happens when a county highway department worker notices where they've been entering the road and there's a large amount of dirt tracked out onto the road, and it's usually a mess. But I don't know about y'all, but I think we probably need to leave a severance tax on the books on pulpwood.
Yes. I agree.
Talking about these severance taxes and everything, and I know this is going a little bit off the subject, but since we're talking about the private act, can we put in the private act I mean, in the charter, something that allows the commission to,
Enabling authority.
enabling authority to seek severance taxes, like I know Commissioner Wandell keeps talking about going after mineral things or something out there.
You don't have to do that as long as it's covered by state statute. If there's enabling authority in state statute, you don't have to do that. But sometimes there's not, and you would have to create that by private act or a charter provision. So that might be a good idea, Commissioner Fritz, is to put some kind of enabling authority in there. You know, at one time, there was quite a freshwater pearl market here when the town was called Burrville. Or what, I don't know exactly what minerals that Commissioner Wandell is talking about, but if it's not covered by state law, you will need a private act or a charter provision to do that.
You might remember what he's talking about. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but he keeps bringing it up time and time again about going after some mineral or something for a tax on it.
Well, we've talked about too also is the severance tax that come mostly out of, District 4.
Exactly.
And all that money was never even reinvested back into District 4 whatsoever.
That's a great point.
Go back to coal severance tax.
Yeah, coal and gas.
Yeah.
And I think that, Commissioner Fritz, I think it's got something to do with gas, what they was talking about in minerals, because it's separated.
That gas tax is kind of funny. The state, not the gas fuel, but the natural gas,
Right.
Both of them, the state will get their cut off of it first before they send us our small check, but that's how that works. So we probably need a motion on this. Do you want enabling authority in the charter to
I make that
authorize
motion.
additional severance taxes?
Second.
What this would be is, this would give the county commission the ability to pass a resolution, or it'd be an ordinance in this case. I'm gonna have to get that terminology straight now, but it'd give the county commission the authority to establish an ordinance on a severance tax, because there would be punishment. It's penal in nature, punitive in nature. But anyway, you probably need a motion on that, or
We got a motion and a second.
second.
Any other discussion? Stop. Please roll call vote.
Commissioner Fritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Smallridge?
Aye.
Commissioner Isbell?
Aye.
Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Bochamp? Chairman Stonehouse?
Aye.
You're gonna like to get hers?
We have 5.
you got it.
Motion carries.
Okay. This is kind of interesting, how this is set up. We normally have the county clerk collecting this, but this goes county trustee collects it. Okay, taxation. These are all outdated, as you'll see. I'm at the top of page 58. Every one of them are. The last one at 59 is for the tax assessor to issue building permits. That's done by our building commissioner under state law. Taxation, the middle of page 58. The following is a list of acts pertaining to taxation. They've all been repealed or superseded by newer divisions in state law. Utilities, this is definitely needed. We utilize this all the time. What it's saying is, before any utility supplier, that would be like CUB or the Water Authority, or tries to connect electrical power, well, not the Water Authority, just anybody using electrical power to a new dwelling or other structure, or mobile home, the supply and connection of electrical power for construction of any new dwelling or other new structure shall supply and connect electrical power to any mobile home, shall extend electrical lines into subdivision. The owner shall furnish the utility supplier a copy of the approved Anderson County building permit. So what that means is, before you can ask CUB to come out and put in early on power or connect a power line to your house, even for construction purposes, you've got to have a building permit. And that's how we capture a lot of the people that refuse to get building permits. When they start to connect to electrical power, CUB will send them, say, hey, you don't even have a building permit. So I've seen this play out probably over a couple dozen times since I've been here. I would recommend keeping it. It does a very good job as far as helping us capture people that don't want to get building permits. Everybody follow me on this one? Yes.
I've got a question on this. I don't know if this would apply or not, but we're getting ready to enter a boom of building in Anderson County residential homes. It's
Yes, sir.
over 414
Yes, sir.
already just this year. So when that happens, they'll start submitting plans like 2 and 3, maybe 4 a week, which is going to put our codes inspector, behind. So do we need to put something in here if we see something like that gives them the ability to hire another person, or?
No, I think, honestly, if they need another person, then county commission would authorize that now. This is a much different case. This is trying to capture the people that's trying to evade a building permit. The other thing you need to remember is we don't do electrical inspections here. They're funded by the state, and there's 2 electrical inspectors at CUB that are there. I think they only do them a couple of days a week, but our county building inspectors don't inspect electrical. We do the plumbing, we do the other stuff, the framing, footing, all that HVAC. That's all done by the county, but this works very well right here, because here we know that not only is CUB required, or any electrical utility in this county, required to notify us that this person doesn't have a building permit, or to tell the homeowner you got to get a building permit before we can turn on the electricity. The other thing is CUB is going to be there anyway to do the inspection for the county, and that works really good. That's covers us 2 different ways. So I would recommend this one stay, and if that does happen, Tim, I can't imagine county commission hesitating to hire
Margie
somebody.
does a great job.
Who?
Margie.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
She does absolutely
Margie's
a great
awesome.
job.
She's very good. We've got to have Oak Ridge Utility District. They're still functional, and I think they'd be up here tomorrow if we said we didn't want them. So that is no debate on that. And as you can see, that's quite big. Oak Ridge Utility District is very large. Okay, let me make sure these other ones are covered. Electrical power, that's one we just talked about. I'm going through that extra set just to make sure we've got them. This is the one we talked about. Requires the county, let's see. Is this the one that of 2000? This one has been. I'm not familiar, isn't it? Oh, okay, they repealed the Private Act of '59, and we have already said we didn't want it. So that's already been done. So that would stay, because that's a repeal of something we don't need. These are all out of my records here. Here's your Board of Education one. That has to stay.
What page you on, Jay?
I'm on the second set. They're not actually numbered. The one, you can tell the difference from the
Yeah.
CTAS to my records. There's the county attorney one. Let's see. This is the salary of the juvenile court judge I talked about. This all needs to stay. The juvenile court judge now makes the same salary as our general sessions judges. This is where we amended the hotel motel tax to split that 90%, 10% to the chamber, and that definitely stays. The satellite offices definitely stay. The fireworks This is the existing fireworks private act. Where we tried to, is this where we tried to repeal it the first time? What's the date on this? No, this is where, they actually thought it passed. This latest time, in 2021, there was some confusion. There was a request for a private act sent at the same time we were supposed to notify them if this one passed. And the request didn't need to go down at that time, but when the notification was made, it was made out of confusion, and it was actually signed into law, they thought, the last amendment to the private act, but we wrote a letter and straightened it out and told them that it didn't pass by 2/3 vote. That's why you see it totally signed. And if you see, here's the voting sheet, 9-6-1 there on that one. And we're back to the C-task one, and that's it. Any questions on those?
So I got a question about the utilities.
Yes, sir.
Not about any of these, but, it's my understanding that, for the utility to be in 2 counties, I guess there has to be either a special act or special approval from both counties.
Right.
And what would it take to rescind that? I'm gonna tell you, let me tell you why I'm asking
You
that.
talk, is it the issue PAL, Clinch Utility?
No,
Okay,
no.
okay.
I'm talking about, whoever supplies the water also has to supply the sewer,
Right.
if there's sewer to be there. And we have an area of this county that desperately needs sewer.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna name any utility district,
Right.
but I'll tell you, if you talk to the people in the neighboring county, they tell you it's the sorriest utility district that's ever been.
Understand.
And I would hope that as progressive as Anderson County is, that at some point in time, District 1 would get the necessary sewer, but to get it to some of those folks, it would have to go through another utility district besides CUB.
Yes, sir. I know all about it. We've done a lot of work in that area. We tried. CUB's been very cooperative with us, and
Right.
I think we've made some headway on the issue, but it's not fixed. That's a state statute we're dealing with. I don't know if we could, let me look at that. I don't think we can alter that state statute here. You're wanting that to be required, that particular utility we're talking about, to pick that area up if needed. Is that what you're saying? Instead of them,
Personally, I think it should be CUB all the way to the county line. Water, so, because what do we have? 2 water systems now in Anderson County, is that correct?
that's correct.
Well, in certain areas, you may have 3.
Yeah, there is a section down near Powell, Claxton. It's on another line.
Wait a minute,
On the back side over there, you'll have another group.
Hosdale Powell has an intake station down there. But
Oh,
actually, North Anderson County and the
Well,
Anderson County Utility Board. are
that
in
might have been the one I was talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, I see you. I see what you're saying.
But
But you're saying that you want that to be mandatory, that other utility has to pick that area up?
No, what I'm saying is I'd like to see in rural Anderson County that all water systems and sewer systems come under CUB. Or one that's for Anderson County only.
Well, the water authority is created by private act, and that's on the books, and that's gonna be there until it's repealed.
Okay.
That's the problem with District One. You've got something like 2 or 3 different utility companies. You've got 3 different addresses. You've got a Clinton address, you've got a Powell address, you've got a Knoxville address,
You got a high school too.
high school address. I mean, and people don't know whether you live in Anderson County or Knox County.
Some of the residents don't know that.
Yeah.
The county line crosses in their yard. It's pretty interesting down there, but, yeah, we can talk more about that, but there's gonna have to be some people come to agreement on that one, and,
No, I'm just curious about it, and that was for my information only.
yes, sir, I appreciate it. That's all I have for you tonight, unless anybody has any questions, but, Gavin's gonna get the rest of the stuff put in the, existing charter, and we'll keep hacking away.
Will he have it by Monday night?
I'll email him tomorrow and make sure he's got all the corrections. But we should be back on track on just working on nothing but the charter then.
So how many more
Jay?
meetings? Sorry.
I was talking to the chairman, and I said a minimum of 3, but that first reading of that charter here, you're gonna have to do some homework at the house. You're gonna have to read it, because I'm sure it may fall together as we're talking about it now, but when you get to reading it, you may have some questions. So I think there's gonna be, like I mentioned earlier tonight, another session to vet some of the more contentious issues. So I would say 4, maybe 5 meetings if that occurs. But I'm thinking next week. It's a good possibility we could get it done in 4.
Jay, looking ahead and kind of following up on that question, if we need 4 or 5 more meetings, how does that relate to what we talked about earlier, the August election versus the November election?
Well, if you want it on the August election, we've got to have it authorized and passed by the 20th. It's got to be delivered to the Election Commission by the close of business on the 20th. And I was thinking all along, until I took a look at that email again, it was the 22nd, because that's what the email says. But when you look at it, the dates are wrong, it's computed wrong. So you look at it in a month, you probably need 4 or 5 meetings.
Well, my main thing is I want to do what we need to do to adequately
Absolutely.
Educate the citizens of what this charter is all about
Right.
and
We,
what's in it.
That's
and-
the 75 days.
Yeah.
That's, the contract with outside counsel requires them to produce some literature that talks about the changes. We've always had the idea there wouldn't be a lot of changes in it, but as you can see, there is a few very needed changes. especially-
People have asked me what we're doing, and I said, it's basically what we have now, but we're fine tuning it, tweaking it to meet today's needs and stuff.
Right, and the ordinance provision, I think is, I hope it's very popular and the citizens understand that. We're able to adopt that uniform traffic code and some other things like public intoxication, open container of alcohol in your car, write county tickets on that instead of state offenses, animal control, zoning that you've asked for, Chuck, probably for 16 years.
Oh, yeah.
And write those on tickets, county tickets, and capture the revenue solely here in Anderson County instead of sending it down to the state. Now, you got to be careful. You don't want to write a DUI or reckless driving or a lot of the more serious traffic offenses as a county ordinance because they don't accumulate points down in Nashville, and therefore they don't get their license suspended on time. But the ones that are more frequently used, speeding, parking violations, and the run-of-the-mill failure to obey a traffic control device, those things we can write on uniform traffic code, adopt that, and that's handy, and that will bring in additional revenue. I hope people understand that. And as we've studied this through the years, there is some benefits to the charter form of government. There's no doubt about that. It helps us modernize our government, and it helps us have broader adoption power of things. But most of the conversation that I ever recall here is we're trying to do pretty much exactly what we've done for years here, because in most of the people's opinion, my opinion, it's worked pretty well. Yeah. But anyway, that's my spiel on that. But you know where we're at on the changes. The recall provision still has an open end in there. As you know, it's in the charter. We talked about that. There's 2 blanks that need to be filled in. If you want to keep that, one blank is the percentage of registered voters need to petition for a recall of an elected official. As we said, we want to guard against a political takeover, so it can't be a majority as it was first sent out. That's not going to be working. So I was hearing y'all talk about maybe 66%, that'd be 2/3, or even 75 3/4 to get it. So it's somewhere in that area. Now there's another blank that needs to be filled in there that says how long does the person have to stay in office before a recall petition. And that's interesting. Is this somebody you want to get rid of immediately because you don't like their politics? Well, that provision would protect them for 6 months, a year, whatever. They couldn't be recalled. So that has to be filled in. And the other one, so it's the number of signatures on a petition for recall, the percentage there, and again, there's 2 different numbers. There's county-wide elected officers and there's district officers. So I think the numbers need to be the same. That's why we use percentages. And then how long they need to be in office. We've had 2 discussions on that, but if you want to include that recall petition, we need to make up our mind there. But that's all I have for you tonight. We'll meet back next week, and hopefully we'll move on straight to nothing but the charter that night. Yes?
Yeah, just for clarification for the people at home, when we're talking about that, that would take away the ouster.
No, the ouster still
It's
stays.
still in?
Yeah, that's state statute.
Okay.
But it's awkward, very time-consuming, and inexpensive to do ousters.
Well, it's a court process.
So this is an alternative to
This,
the ouster.
yeah, this is more a citizen recall is the way it works. It's not something done by county commission.
It gives the citizen more
The
power.
citizens
Yeah.
can see an unfaithful officer or whatever. And I try to put you remember we put in there good cause shown. Well, that's pretty arbitrary. Of course, a criminal act or something along those times, dereliction of duties. We're going to have to define that. Good cause shown is not going to carry the burden there. That's going to be too arbitrary. So if you can think of any other reason, the abandonment of office, things of that nature, but that's done by the citizens that elected that individual. It's much different than the process for ouster, which is a court proceeding. Okay. Any other questions?
I just want to make a statement.
Yes.
I would like for all of us to think about putting this on the November 8th ballot. If we've got to meet 4 to 5 more times, I don't know about everybody else, but having a 5-day notice for me for Monday is a little time pushing.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to meet 4 or 5 more times, we can meet twice in May, twice in June if needed, a few times more in June. And then that gives us a little more time to educate the voters more than that 75 days. And we're not really pushing ourselves to the limit and trying to rush this thing, and we can get a clear cut on it. So that would be my recommendation, as we try to work toward that November 8th, putting it on that ballot, but us do this efficiently and not have back-to-back meetings every week.
That's a good point. Then you wonder which election draws the most voters. And I've been totally shocked at the low turnout for early voting. It's surprising in this county.
Well, there's not a big draw in either election.
But anyway, that's some good thought, because as I think a minimum of 2 times once you get the final charter to go through it, vet it, study it closely. I'm going to ask you to read every word. I know right now it's 41 pages, but I want everybody on board. Possibly, I know we're not going to all agree on every provision, but then the other big issue is the educational component, to go out in the community and say, look, we've done our job, here's the charter. There is a few changes. We've tried to operate like we normally do, but here are the changes, and here's why this occurred. But I think that's important to our citizens.
What happens if they keep, we keep doing the charter and they keep voting it down and down and
It's done then.
Come back and
Well-
do it again.
and they vote it down and keep doing it again?
That's actually happened in one county. They ran 2 shots at it, but who knows?
You know, today's the 20th, we got one scheduled for the 25th, and that gets us into May. And to do what we've done in April, and I know this really cuts it close, but the 18th would be the 4th meeting.
With weekly meetings.
I agree with Sabra. I think it's gonna be awful tough to do a good job and educate the community, and shoot for August right now. And meet the deadline that, you know, as you
Sure.
pointed out.
See, that's where the 75 days comes in, from May 20th to August, to whatever the election is.
But because of early voting, you don't really have 75 days, right? Because that's 75 days before the election.
That's a good point.
You'll only have a few weeks if you go to 75.
Maybe we'll see the picture a little bit clearer after a couple more meetings. But we're up against a time crunch, believe it or not. As hard as you have worked this in 2022, it's been incredible. And I know we had a break for COVID, but we met several times in 2020 and 2021, and but we've accomplished a lot. But this is a big undertaking, as we've seen.
I would like to see the opportunity to have, you know, we've had a lot of, in District 4, is we'll have community meetings to discuss this. And what I would like to see is, as we get real close to we think what's going to be a charter that we're going to present, is to be able to go out and say, look, this is the charter as presented. And we're going to vote on this coming up, so let's let people know, and that's why I agree with it being on the November election.
Well, that is a very good point, and that's what we've always, I think, wanted to do, is go out in the community, and it always is in the back of my mind that somebody may look at something differently than the way we've looked at it, and they may bring up an excellent point, and we may say, whoops, you know, we all agree with this person, or majority of us agrees with this different opinion, different take on this. So it's almost like you want to start doing that educational process before we can get close to that deadline to submit it to the Election Commission. And that's almost impossible at this point. But anyway, that's not my decision. I'm willing to meet 5 days a week if you need it.
The thing about it is, we've got to get the outside counsel to get it to us.
That's very important, and as I've asked a couple of times, it's great to get it on the Wednesday before when the agenda packet goes out, and that's been difficult, and I understand. They've been running a large law firm, and but we paid our bill there, and they know that we're up against deadlines, so I'll keep encouraging them to work hard on it, make their changes, and get it back to us as quickly as possible.
Will you check to see what the status is for Monday night, about what they have?
Sure will.
Because that could be a step, and that could be a big step if we could have
Yeah.
that and have that meeting. And then, I'm not talking about, I don't have any problem with it being in November. That's not it. But I'm saying, we need to get things in hand.
Either way, we need to get
Yes.
things in hand and go out in the community. Okay. Thank y'all for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Do appreciate it.
Any old business? Any new business? Now, I think some folks came in after we started the meeting, and I just wondered if they had anything to tell us. Any of you have anything you'd like to say?
Mr. Chair.
I'm Mrs. Smith, and I'm on the county commission.
I did want to say one thing about putting it in November. I think that would be better because you have 7 out of the 8 districts for commission that are in August, and people could start trying to twist it one way or another to try and benefit their election. The election's already over by the time you get to November.
That's a very good point.
It is. And you've got 3 candidates sitting in this room.
Oh, do we?
Well, yeah, well, up there too, but I mean, in the gallery, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we got a lot in here.
Yeah.
Everybody but Fritz.
Wait a minute. Yeah, that's true.
He's
Y'all
retired.
ran out. Well,
Just
you're
like
right.
we need him most. Darn. We'll miss you, Chuck.
Do I,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say that I think this committee has done a great job over the last couple of months. Our outside counsel, law director, trying to put things together.
right?
I think we've made more progress in the last 6 months we've made 6 years.
That's right. You're exactly right. And
Well, I really appreciate you hiring outside counsel. It takes me out of that loop, and I just honestly, I don't have the time anymore. It's all we can do to get our duties done. We've got several lawsuits, big issues for the county, so I appreciate y'all hiring outside counsel. That's worked out well for us.
well, there's 2 sides of that, Mr. Yeager.
Yes, sir.
Most people don't realize how much money you save the county by county commission allowing you to do this for the charter commission.
Oh, yeah.
Am I supposed to say
Many,
thank you? I'm
many.
kind of struggling with that. That's why I don't attend all the committee meetings, VL, and you know why? Because every committee meeting I attend, they look at me and give me an assignment. So, no, I'm glad to do it. It's my job, and I enjoy it. It does take up all my time, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah. I was gonna talk to you about your office hours. There's been a couple of Saturdays and Sundays that I emailed you after 6 o'clock and you didn't even answer.
Now, that's strange. I must have been with my grandson.
But hearing,
Well, it wasn't all the time, just a
seeing
couple of times.
no further business, motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
It's done.